Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 118, recording on Sunday, August 28th, 2022. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And a big week in games with the Gamescom conference going on, or event. Is it a conference? Do we know?
Something like that.
The trade show. We'll be talking about the opening night live stream and a lot of the games announced there, and a few of the other ones. First, I'm back. Thanks for
welcome back, Frank.
Keeping it going last week. I still haven't listened. I realized it right before we started. I like to listen to know what I'm getting into, or what I need to comment on.
You should have listened beforehand.
It's too
might
late.
have to address it next week based on what I heard before the show. A lot of talking about rumor and speculation, which I do not endorse, but I will listen to it before next week. So thanks, guys. I hope it went well. I'm sure it did. And
best show ever.
I'm out of here. Peace. We are going to okay.
No.
You didn't have to leave, Frank. Seriously.
That was accidental, but it is definitely a weird button mapping on my mouse that is turning off my camera. So, Gamescom this week, I watched only the opening night live stream. I think Sean watched opening night live, and what other two, Sean?
I was mainlining all the indie stuff, man. Future games, awesome indies, and I think that was it. Just those ones.
And the main one. And Huck, you watched?
I did the same as Sean, but the awesome indies I kind of did. I dabbled.
But you did not watch opening live, right?
No, I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. Like in 4 times speed?
2.5. Okay. Depending on my interest level.
So there was a lot of announcements. In general, I have a lot of thoughts in general about Gamescom and the stream and what's going on there. I think I'll save some of that or sprinkle it in as we talk about specific things. I don't feel like there was, well, if there was one game that I heard the most about or that seemed to be trending in a big way, it was Dead Island 2. Would you guys agree that that was the game most people were talking about after the show?
Yeah, I would say it was a pretty big announcement.
Okay.
I am 100% out of the loop. I have no idea.
Okay. And I think it had been announced before, and then was it shut down temporarily, and this was like bringing the game back, or was it always in development and just no updates?
I mean, I think it had always been in development, but there kept being rumors popping up that it was going to be announced, and then I don't know if they ever officially... No, because there was another trailer recently.
I thought they announced Dead Island 2 a long time ago, and then kind of got rid of it for Dying Light, right?
Yeah, you might be right, actually, yeah.
And so
that's the same developers that make Dying Light?
I am pretty sure.
Really?
Unless I'm getting the name wrong. I think that's the case. Double check that while I'm going here. But I thought I played Dead Island when it came out, and it was better than I thought it would be as like an open world first person zombie game. I didn't beat it or anything like that, but I thought the trailer and gameplay of Dead Island 2 looked decent. It's not a franchise I'm that passionate about, but it looked pretty good. There's a lot. We're going to get into a lot of CG trailers and our typical complaints about that type of stuff. But as far as CG trailers go, I thought that one was half decent.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of been known, like, even from the first game, like, they were known for some of their trailers, right?
Well, the in reverse, was it? Or
there was that one, and there was another one. I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was with the little girl or something.
Yeah, that was I'm pretty sure it went in reverse.
Oh, it's the same one.
And I remember at Silicon Knights, people losing it over that trailer while I was barfing in my mouth. I mean, like, everyone's crazy here. This trailer's not that good. It's kind of a gimmick. Let's relax. But any thoughts on Dead Island 2?
Well, first of all, not the same developers as Dying Light that I can see.
Well, what's their...
No, it's Techland. It is the same.
Oh, really? Because Dam Buster Studios is what I saw as the actual developer.
For Dead Island 2. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, the original.
Yes, Techland developed the original
gotcha,
Dead Island. So obviously it's been shipped off to someone else.
Okay, so the IP it's moved to a different developer, but the original Dying Light, they did Dying Light
and Dead Island.
Right? Okay,
and Dead Island, yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, now we're all on the same page. So, any thoughts about this game? Other than the obligation to talk about it because other people are?
Well, I mean, I thought the trailer was good. I agree. Like, it's, I don't know, something about it drew me in. There is, it feels like all zombie, like there's still like a lot of zombie games, and it feels like a lot of them now have this kind of wacky sense of humor, which this one clearly is showcasing as well. So I'm kind of not sure at this point what sets this apart. Like, I think at the time, the idea of like an RPG open world zombie game was cool for the first one. I'm not too sure what part 2 brings to the table that's new at this point.
For me, I was kind of like, so first I saw the like CG trailer and I was like, oh god, here we go. This is a giant waste of my time. So I skipped it, and then I watched like, little bits of it. And then they bring out the lady to talk about the story and stuff and all the gameplay. And I was like, okay, are they actually going to show something? They did. But then it was like a location sizzle reel and then just like a kill cam sizzle reel. And there was like nothing else in there. And I guess if, first person kills and seeing the locations is your jam, then I guess this was a good trailer. But I didn't think it was that good. Nothing really piqued my interest per se.
I guess I like there's a kind of a cohesiveness to the CG trailer and the gameplay, where they were doing something where keeping animations of a main character, whether it was first person or third person in the trailer, and then swapping out the background. I think it's like Welcome to LA or something like that. It's like taking place in LA. Reminded me a bit of Noah and some of the editing in Noah. But I thought, it looked all right. I don't really care that much. So I think we can move on from that game.
And what was the deal with like the Nope? Nope? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was just...
It like kept showing this like Nope thing over top of like, they were like killing people, and then all of a sudden there was just like this Nope decal in front of their faces.
I mean, possibly without audio at 3 times speed, whatever the joke was lost there, but I don't remember what it was.
I think it was, if I'm remembering correctly, and I could be wrong, like it was a pretty gory trailer, and I think that stuff was covered, like censoring some stuff.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
Makes sense here.
But I agree. At 3 times speed and on mute, I had no idea what was going on.
Well,
should we add the fourth parameter?
The fourth parameter?
Or 10 parameters? The Roman codes?
Please. That's just everyday life around here.
I don't care. It's fine.
It's February 3rd, 2023 is the release date. So that was kind of maybe a surprise that it's coming that soon.
Yeah.
And did you guys play the original or the definitive edition?
Yeah, I liked it more than I thought I would when it came out. I thought it was pretty good.
It an action RPG?
No, it's like an open world first person, like mostly action.
But it had RPG elements. Like, it's not like, are you asking if it's like turn based or something? Or
no, I just mean she mentioned that it was an action RPG. And I didn't think the original was an action RPG. So maybe this game is more interesting to me.
RPG in the sense that it has progression systems and skill trees and stuff like that. So. Like how every game, open world 3D action game has RPG elements these days. So
fair enough.
And some feeling of investment that is associated with RPGs. So the next game I'm going to switch to is Lies of P, which out of all the new things announced, I think I'd never heard of this game before. It was getting a lot of buzz, and I think it's a really interesting game to talk about because it is based, or was introduced as being based on Pinocchio, the lore of Pinocchio. And Pinocchio is one of those IPs, let's call it, that I don't understand why people keep going back to it. Even as a kid, it kind of falls under the Peter Pan umbrella for me, where I'm like, where I always say kids don't actually like Peter Pan. They watch it because it's a story for kids, and there's only so many of those. I don't think anyone really loves it, and I feel like Pinocchio is kind of the same thing. It's just kind of kids and people like Pinocchio because we tell them to. So why that's kind of interesting to me is because you could easily have watched this trailer and had not known it had anything to do with Pinocchio. Like the blue fairy is in there in some context. Like really, it looks like something very similar to a Capcom or From Software 3D action game. And at first, I was like, it looks kind of bland. It looks polished, but slightly uninteresting, mostly in the art style. But it grew on me as it went on, and was giving me like Devil May Cry vibes, a lot of those types of games. And by the end of the trailer, I'm pretty excited for this game. Minus
the or the main character, like I was like, is this Pinocchio? I have no idea, but I was immediately thinking that it was the guy from Dark Sector. Do you guys remember that?
I remember. That I didn't think that, but I know who you're talking. Like,
it's got that like mechanical arm, which is supposed to be like the, Pinocchio wooden arm, quote unquote. But like it to me.
So is Pinocchio, that what it is? The arm is the replacement of the nose?
I don't know what the nose part. There was no nose indication in this trailer, unless I'm mistaken.
Like that seems like a big thing if you're going to do a Pinocchio thing.
Yes.
You have. I was expecting that to be the hook. Yeah. Almost like it could move to the arm, almost in the way like Devil May Cry 5 had this like arm replacement thing to it where you could keep swapping out your powers on the arm. I thought, okay, maybe they'll do something with that. So weird to me that you would introduce a Pinocchio based IP and not tie into that as like a gameplay thing. Maybe it's there, we just don't know about it yet. But that was definitely something I took away. But I think it's good. I think it's kind of a good thing that it's based on Pinocchio, because I think generally theme and story are not the strength of video game developers. So you're going to probably have a nice foundation of theme and story from a well-known classic story that must have some merit if it's still talked about and comes up over and over again, but not relying on it explicitly and putting your own spin on it. So the more I think about this game, I've definitely talked myself into highly anticipating it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say it's highly anticipated for me. It's Souls-like, so it's probably not for me, but I kind of like the ballsiness of taking something like Pinocchio and then completely transforming it to something that doesn't resemble it. Like, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. And it had a bit of like a steampunk kind of vibe. I don't know, I like the look of the world. I just it's probably not my kind of game. Yeah,
I'm looking. It's published and developed by NeoWiz. I don't know much about them. It's weird. It seems like it's more of a publisher than a developer, but I can't. The actual specific developer of this game I can't really find, so I don't know. Anyway, I thought it looked pretty cool. For whatever reason, I like the title of the game, Lies of P. I don't know why. It's not that catchy, but I'm vibing with it.
Now, do you think that the main character is not Pinocchio, and it's actually like maybe Pinocchio is like the bad guy? And this is his world? Because it seems like a lot of the characters are kind of like toys and toy-esque creations. So I'm wondering if Pinocchio is actually the bad guy.
It could be the case, but I got one sense, like a brief memory from the trailer. It almost seemed like someone was Geppetto and they were meeting at one point. So I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on that take. Certainly possible, though.
I just, it's like the Pinocchio, the main character, does not look like a puppet. they have a real face. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, so either it takes place after they turn into.
I think that's
boy,
what I think that actually is probably what it is, and that would also explain the nose thing too. So it's like because he's older, obviously he's not a boy, or like he's at least adolescent or a teenager or something at the very least. So that's probably what it is. And now I feel stupid for suggesting the other stuff.
A couple quotes from the developer for you. We had to find a very well-known thing first because this is our first Souls-like game. So we wanted to have the fan base first. So we came up with a well-known story first, and then we gave our own twist on
fan
it.
base.
Yeah. And then also when you think about Pinocchio, people will think about Disney, but Disney made Pinocchio a little childish. But actually, if you look at the original story, it's pretty dark and for adults.
Disney's Pinocchio is pretty dark too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I honestly am not that passionate about the other games. I have some I can talk about. So if there was any game that you guys were particularly excited about in the opening night live, feel free to bring it up.
Huck?
Or the thing you were
got
most
anything?
impressed
John?
by.
Well, okay, the one I definitely wanted to talk about that was kind of like a WTF, like this is a game.
Killer Clowns
from Outer Space. Of course, it's another
Film junk crossover.
It's another asymmetrical multiplayer game. So
By
as soon as
I think the design director or director of the Friday the 13th game, which at some point got was it removed from the store, or there was issues with the IP, I think.
Really?
I thought so. Or licensing issues. I could have swore that was a thing.
Wasn't that the fighting? Are you talking about the fighting game with like the different horror villains?
No, I thought
Friday the 13th game had licensing issues. Really?
I thought so. Apologies if I'm incorrect. But it almost seems like my first thought, even though I might be incorrectly remembering that, was like finding a movie IP that they could get full access to or easily, make a partnership deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it's just at this point, they just seem to be going down the list of horror franchises and turning them all into this exact same game format, which is kind of starting to bug me. But and while we're on this topic, let me just jump into this, because there was a point in the show where I started to think every single game being announced is part of some current trend of games or subgenre of games that I'm personally not into, to the point where I was like, do I even like games anymore? Like, what is going on? But like, obviously, roguelikes still popular, lots of those. Souls-likes still popular, lots of those. Free-to-play battle royale games, free-to-play platform fighting games, asymmetrical horror games, survival games. These are all popular genres out there.
You missed the last one and the biggest one, and why I can relate to you wondering, do I even like video games anymore sometimes? Like, we know I love third-person action games. And there was like 3 or 4 in this. Let's see if I have some of the names here. Where Winds Meet. There was another really big one. I mean, obviously the Callisto Project.
Protocol.
I always get that wrong.
Was it Scars Above was one of them?
Yeah, Scars Above. Yeah, I think. And, there's been other ones that aren't even at this show. Forspoken. They did the Stranger game for Final Fantasy. And these games obviously take a lot of time to make. And it feels like we're seeing, with, The Last of Us and Horizon and lots of the big Sony third-person action games, people have tried to make those games, and I think we're getting oversaturated with those, even to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to start picking and choosing. And a lot of these seem to be like a AA level, very similar to, why can't I think of the one Xbox acquired the studio for?
Like a Plague Tale?
Developers of Heavenly Sword. That's one of them. There's a sequel. It'll come to me in a second. But that was kind of by Ninja Theory.
I know. Yeah. You're talking about
Hellblade.
Hellblade, yeah.
Yes. So that was kind of a short AA, like as good as AA can get game. And I feel like a lot of these Biomutant fits into this as well, but kind of AA third-person action games. And Sean and I were talking about this a bit today. The Gamescom almost has this vibe where they're taking games that aren't necessarily supposed to be AAA top-tier games, but as having them part of this showcase event, it almost overhypes them to what they are. Like, they're not super Sony, Microsoft AAA polished games, but they're presented in a scenario where you kind of expect stuff like that. And, you know, it's kind of putting unfair expectations on these games. And in some ways, to me, almost a disservice to showcasing some of these games.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I would say in general, overall, I don't think there's that many AA games. Like, that's, as with movies, that middle ground has kind of gone away and you either get giant blockbusters or indie stuff. But I think with this showcase in particular, like the Jeff Keighley ones, he's not getting the Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo announcements generally, maybe a couple here and there. So he's going to like the tier down, and that's all he can get. So he's getting those games and hyping them up as like big blockbusters. And so like these particular showcases are filled with these kinds of games.
Yeah, and I would probably typically like those games, but when you cast it in this opening night huge stream context, it's a little less exciting that they probably would be normally. It's just a trailer, and then you sit through 2 hours of it, of that same type of stuff, and you get burnt out really quick. Not to mention watching it after the fact, where the whole thing's an ad. There's also paid advertisements within the stream that get interrupted by YouTube ads at the same time. So it's like ad upon ad upon ad. And I'm like, what? Like, why am I watching this? To just watch like inception of ads being thrown at me. So I was definitely thinking about that watching this, but that reminds me, while we're talking about AA kind of third person action games, I do think, I don't know the budget for Callisto Protocol, but that feels like it's top tier of like a AA level. But even that, I'm really excited for that game. I think they are doing what a game in that budget space, team size should do. But even then, when you watch that game, you can see where it's a step down from Sony AAA stuff. For me, it's the gravity gun, like the physics-based stuff where you pull characters. When they get thrown into the grinders, like stuff pops off. There's not a lot of animations. It's kind of covered up with effects. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like, I'm still excited for that game, but it's still a tier down. And then like you're kind of looking at all these games through like AA glasses, so to speak, which typically I'm fine with. Those games tend to be shorter. There are diamonds in the rough occasionally, but it seems to be a lot of similar type things. And Sean and I were also talking, like, I find myself almost like the industry being excited for AAA games, but more so than ever, just looking indie for stuff. Like, they're beatable, they're polished, they have great art styles. A lot of the stuff in this show felt pretty middle of the road.
Yeah. I really don't like. I agree. I think I generally gravitate towards the indie stuff anyway, but I don't really understand why they wouldn't throw a few of those in here just to mix it up a bit. It seems a bit weird, but
while we're talking about the show, I'll say too, let's get rid of the world exclusive bumper. That's like 3 seconds, maybe just a hashtag or something on the screen when it shows up, like a spiel before everything. I mean, 2 hours was a little excessive for this show, I have to say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Callisto Protocol for a bit? I was finding that this gameplay they showed was a little confusing because they showed the like gravity gun thing, throw it into the grinder, and then they proceeded to shoot zombies but never kill them. And then use the gravity gun to throw them into the grinder. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
100%.
is that the only way to kill things in this game is to use this gravity gun to throw them into like environmental hazards?
There's like there's an economy issue that seems glaring with this. Like, how do you recharge that gun? It's like seems OP relative to everything else. And the great thing about Dead Space was like switching whether the gun was horizontal or vertical and like slicing off limbs. And I feel like it's too early to say, but I had very similar concerns with this gravity gun. Seems to be economy breaking in terms of ammunition.
And then and the fact that like your normal gun that they seem to be using seems almost useless against any of these monsters. Like he shot him, enough times, I would think. Blew off his head.
I think it seemed, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just thinking Dead Space, but like, weren't they kind of more like taking off body parts as opposed to being able to kill them with the gun? And then it's like the grinder's the only thing that kind of destroys them in one go or something.
It could be. It could be. And maybe that.
I mean, this thing grew back its head.
So if you shoot off legs, it gives you time for your gravity gun to recharge and throw the corpse into the. So it's like managing the distance while you're waiting for a kill shot. I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying there isn't potential for this to work, but I did have those thoughts watching.
And that's fine if that's a mechanic they're going for, but I don't think they've explicitly said that in any of their like announcements about the game, that this game is essentially like you have to kill them with environmental kills.
Yeah.
And all the other weapons are just to slow them down.
They did show this section previously as well, so I think they really just love showing off the grinder.
I think it was a different section if I remember.
I think it was too.
Oh, really?
It was red. So it seems like I was thinking about that too. It seems pretty similar, but with like just different lighting, which I understand it, like depending on the budget, that's a fine way to approach like the visual pacing of the levels. But yeah, I'm curious to see. And I'm fine if this game is short, for the record. And then they had like a sliding section,
which like a minute long,
which looked okay, about the same level as Fallen Order, which didn't have the best sections like that. But
it reminded me of Tomb Raider too. Tomb Raider
that too.
A bunch of those, like, water
I'm
slides.
still really excited for this game, so I hope it does really well. But seeing a lot of similar stuff, which, in terms of how to present these games, there was a game I have absolutely zero interest in. Nothing, but there's so many CG trailers. This one stuck out to me. Homeworld 3. It's like a strategy space game, something I would never play, but I thought they walked a great line of showing gameplay, showing off systems, like avoiding enemies by passing through things, but doing it in a slightly cinematic way. Or I was like, oh, there's some cool gameplay ideas, kind of allude to the type of thinking and strategy you would do, like what makes this type of strategy game unique, while doing it almost in an edited version, like not showing 10 minutes of gameplay. So I thought that was a really interesting way to present a game like that, and a game that I still have very little interest in, but kind of respected that type of trailer, which there was not much of that at all. It was either CG and like very quick edited gameplay montages, where I think we all love the Sony long play type stuff, and you don't have enough time to do that here. So I thought that was a nice hybrid of showcasing gameplay.
Yeah, I think that was the story of this showcase. Is there's either CG or it's that like fast cut action. Don't really know anything about the gameplay clips, and that was really frustrating because you didn't really get to learn anything about a lot of the games, really, other than that they have action bits. Like, yeah, of course.
As far as CG trailers, like the Lords of the Fallen trailer was a good cinematic trailer. It obviously had the mother drop from Danzig in there, but I thought it was pretty good. Not that it makes me want to play it, but if I'm evaluating CG trailers, it wasn't a bad one. The Dune one, an open world survival MMO, all CG. Just not a lot to sink your teeth into. Destiny 2 was CG, but that really doesn't matter. If anything, like the art style of that Lightfall DLC is probably the closest I've come to giving Destiny another shot. I like the vibe of that, but I doubt I will.
I like that trailer. I didn't know it was for Destiny originally, and I was like, oh, what's this? And then when it was Destiny, I was like, oh. It kind of like brought me back down again. But I mean, I don't know. I'd like to give Destiny a shot. I've played the first one a little bit, but it's just, I'm never going to get into it. I know I won't.
Oh, sorry. The game I was thinking about, what we said, I think Stranded, was Atlas Fallen. It wasn't that one. Atlas Fallen was a third-person action game that looked pretty good, but I was starting to wear thin on those types of games.
So a couple others that we should mention. So I think Huck, or one of you guys mentioned Where Winds Meet.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time this game had been announced.
I believe so.
It seems kind of like Ghost of Tsushima, but medieval China. I mean, it looked pretty good from what I saw. I wasn't 100% clear on what the full gameplay is there, but...
Yeah, I mean, I thought I love those types of games. Like you said, it's China, not Japan, but, you know, it does feel like a AA version in some ways of those types of games. So it's going to be stiff competition for something like that when I think Team Ninja has another very similar game coming out. That's a third-person action game. It might be set in China. I'm going to look it up.
We should mention Under the Waves, which is the Quantic Dream underwater game. Not a lot to go on from the trailer, but I'm a little intrigued.
I am also intrigued, but is it Quantic Dream developing, or are they just publishing it? Because I couldn't tell. I thought there was a logo before Quantic Dream, but maybe that was the publisher. But I could say that this trailer, like, I love Quantic Dream games, so obviously I'm intrigued. But
looks like you're right. Developed by Parallel Studios, published by Quantic.
So that was interesting to me that it's not actually a Quantic Dream game, like straight up. But I must say that I am intrigued because of the Quantic Dream connection, but this trailer didn't really do much for me. I mean, it was interesting that there's, like, obviously the world has flooded or something. So that is intriguing. But other than that, I couldn't really tell what was going on per se.
Yeah.
The game I was talking about was Wo Long from Team Ninja, and that is set in China, it looks like. So another game that game's going to have to compete with.
Yeah.
One game I'm interested in is Moonbreaker, which was by the Subnautica devs. So I am, like, this whole, like, minis thing, I'm not really into. But the fact that it's the Subnautica devs mixed with the Brandon Sanderson connection has me pretty intrigued, because I like Brandon Sanderson books and I love Subnautica. So I will give this game a chance, even though the genre, I mean, I love XCOM also. So it's really just the minis aspect that I'm like, I don't want to paint any of these stupid things.
Well, yeah, like, it seems like it's a strategy game, but it's just they're actually making the pieces kind of like little tabletop.
It's almost like a Warhammer. It's like a Warhammer game. XCOM.
Yeah, I thought it was going to go a different direction, where or do two things, where you can paint the statues or sculptures in the game. Like, that's kind of cool. I wouldn't be surprised there's not a world where you can paint them outside, like a Warhammer game, and then scan your creations and put them into a game. Like, I'm sure the advancements of photogrammetry, if you had a model that you knew already existed and could, like, take pictures of it, I could see it going the reverse way too. And I think, you know, that might be a thing in the future.
And I thought you were going to say paint your thing in game and then, like, send it off,
or 3D print it. Yeah, like both. You could do all that stuff. So, I mean, I'm not into that world necessarily, but I could see that becoming interesting, or like that world developing in the next decade or so. Could be some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And I did find it interesting that they're going to do this game into early access, much like they did Subnautica. So obviously, early access is becoming, like, the thing to do. And obviously it is very profitable for most of these companies because a lot of teams do it, and a lot of teams seem to keep doing it over and over again. So,
well, I like comparing it to Kickstarter or crowdsourcing. It seems like a way better idea, like some middle ground where you get a product, you're way more active in the development rather than just waiting. Like it's, hey, here's proof we're changing the game, adding things. You have access to that. So I think overall it is definitely like a push in the right direction.
You also get like super fans buying in early, so you have their cash to develop the game with, and then you also have the real super fans helping you develop the game, which is like way better than Kickstarter. So I agree. I think early access is really an awesome system, and I think it's great that developers are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, for up and coming developers not having to rely on publisher money or whatever, if you've got enough going, it's the way to go for sure.
Frank, did you want to talk about Everywhere?
Oh, yes. So the show started off with Everywhere, which was, a little obscure. By the time the dust settled on the Everywhere storm at the beginning of the show, I was like, okay, this is like the title, a game where you do everything. It's like a meta, almost a metaverse / Fortnite game, like trying to do something. This is going to be the game everyone plays, and it's going to have events, probably trying to get in on stuff like concerts and Fortnite, and just establishing a new home base sandbox to try to replace things like Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox. Yeah, like let's do all those, but do it better, which is an interesting idea and would certainly take a lot of money in development. Which I'm not saying is impossible, but I don't know. I'm getting a sense with some of these big games and super ambitious online games, they are going about it the completely wrong way. Like when I think of Minecraft, it started as some weird beta project on a server that people found on the internet and kept making it bigger and bigger and adding use cases for it. And the populator grew. Even Fortnite started as a different game, and then it was a base building game, and then the battle royale was like a side thing that's grown into something bigger. It's like a use case model for development. I feel like these developers should be starting smaller and expanding based on popularity, and they're trying to do the opposite. Yeah. And I can't think of a single case where that has succeeded.
No, in like business, they call like the MVP, right? You put out your minimal viable product. And that's what like all these successful games did. They put out something small, they build on top of it, and then they get feedback from the community, and then they go with what's popular and what is vibing with people. And right now, and this Everywhere thing is just like, we're going to make the best thing ever without talking to anybody. And
yeah, I'm genuinely asking, like, I can't think of a game that started big and got bigger. But the one thing that I kind of thought of with that was Destiny. Destiny was hyped, but even that, like, early
Destiny
reception
started with Halo, though.
Yeah, but its first reception was not that strong. Reviews were not great, and then people stuck with it, and it developed as a games as a service, and obviously moved to being published by Bungie, and kind of doing based on what the community wanted. So,
you mean published by Activision? Bungie developed it. It was published by Activision afterwards, right? But Destiny?
No, I thought the initial one was published by Activision, and Bungie bought it back to self-publish.
Yeah, for Destiny 2?
Yeah, for Destiny 2.
For Destiny 2, yes. Yeah,
okay. And I was right. I wasn't right specifically, but there was a lawsuit with the Friday the 13th game as well.
Okay. Yeah, just on Everywhere real quick. Like, to me, it reeks of something that is bringing in investors. You're bragging about like all the stuff we can do with this thing, and investors are like, yes, let me throw money at you. But then players are watching these trailers like, what is this? I don't even I have no interest in this. Like,
because it starts as like this cartoony Fortnite-ish type experience, like with highlight reels of doing everything, and I'm assuming allowing user generated content like Roblox, and then then it showed like kind of a single player thing. It's like, oh, what's that? It's like, wink, wink. This game has everything. It's the game to end all games, and I just can't see this going well.
Yeah, it was a pretty weak game to open on, but it's ambitious. Again, I'll give them that.
That also had the investors think, right? Like, hey, this is being funded by venture capitalists, different groups everywhere. Hey, we want to be the next big thing in online gaming. We got a lot of cash. Let's push it to old Keeley. We'll talk about a bit of that payola later. And there's a lot of that going on here. So it all made sense, pretty much.
Well, speaking of...
Oh, sorry. While we're talking about it, I'll bet if I go back and rewatch the everything portion, he is checking his cue cards a lot. That was the trend. When we hit the MiHoYo section with Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, it was like he was really reading the cue cards, where he's usually off the cuff, like bringing that Keeley magic. All of a sudden, it's like, this game is going to do this. And I don't know if he's doing that on purpose as like a wink, like this is payola, or subconsciously, but you can kind of get those tells watching this.
The cue card thing was interesting because normally they'd have teleprompters out there. Like, unless Keeley, when he does the whatever the game... What's the
I think he uses awards? I think he likes cue cards. I think that's his thing. But
when he does the Game Awards, he doesn't have cue cards.
No?
I don't think so. And I think he must have a teleprompter. There's no way he's memorizing everything he's going to say before that show.
Maybe they just handed it to him as he went on stage for that segment or something, but
it's possible. I don't know.
Could have been a technical malfunction. It is weird. We'll never know. But
technical malfunction could be.
There were some tells there. Sorry, Sean. What were we getting at before?
The MiHoYo Payola.
No, before I thought you were going to jump to something. MiHoYo Payola.
I was going to also say, speaking of payola, we got to talk about the Kojima podcast announcement, which was like, Kojima always seems to come on these things, I guess, because he's friends with Keeley, even though seems like he doesn't have anything to plug, but I guess the podcast counts as something. But
he did say he's working on games, plural.
That's true.
I don't know if you
can read into that.
Tidbit.
But yeah,
I assume Kojima is always working on at least two
games, plural. Probably.
Whether it's an idea or in development.
But I guess it's time for us to probably announce that this is the last Game Junk episode, right? Because Kojima's doing a podcast. What else?
Starts in September with Keeley doing news in it, so it was a bit of self-payola there. Not that
we got one more show left in us, and then it's all
done. It's all over. While we're on payola, a very long segment dedicated to a concept car by Mini.
Yes,
the Pokemon car.
Oh,
the Pokemon
God. Who is that for?
Oh yeah.
It was great that they're like, we're going to go to this pre-recorded footage and show you this car that no one wants to see.
Yeah, I don't have much else to talk about. DualSense Edge controller, like a pro version. I'm interested. Didn't really get much about it from that from those glamour shots. Sonic Frontiers releasing this year, November 8th, and I might be the only person in the world. I'm kind of excited for Sonic Frontiers, and they were showcasing more of my Knights mechanic, circling things to do combat. I'm in. You got me. I'm your one supporter. Don't fuck it up.
I was going to say this is like the Battle of Hoth, take down the AT-AT Walker. Is that how you defeat things?
Yeah, it is actually. That's a good call.
Okay, because I saw that, I was like, is this really, like, do other games do this? But I guess they do, if you're saying they do. So
it was a big thing in Knights. That's how that I think it's a good mechanic that needs to come back.
I did like, I don't know if you guys saw the 2D or 2.5D like style callback to the original Sonics they had. It was just for a brief moment in the trailer. where it was like he was running through the original like Emerald Hills kind of like area in 2D.
I took that as like there are 2D. I thought that was part of Sonic Frontiers where they cut to a 2D cam, kind of like some of the 2D sections
in Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I just like that. I thought that was nice.
Isn't there like a big like controversy over this? Like I vaguely read something online about like
just rumor and speculation.
Fans are upset about Sonic Frontiers specifically because it seems to be reusing levels from old games. Like somehow that's like they're like, how dare you? Like
is Sonic's whole marketing push now doing things on purpose to piss people off so people talk about the game?
Maybe.
Whether it's the movie or the games, can we just like talk about the game when it comes out rather than everything that people are mad about with Sonic?
Okay, got one other last thing on this. Probably the weirdest trailer in the whole showcase. I don't know if either of you guys saw it. It was pretty short. There was a VR trailer for Alchemy Labs. They're the developer that did Job Simulator and Vacation Simulator. And the whole teaser is just people wearing VR headsets and like looking like they're about to eat food.
Yeah. I didn't know what it was.
Get it.
I have no idea. I guess it's a VR game about eating food, but
eating roast stuff or something. I don't know. If the intent was to be like, I got to know what this is and go look it up online, it didn't work.
No.
What about the finals? The show, did they close with that? I think they closed with it.
Oh, the finals? Yeah. Well, that was like also, Keeley said there was some gameplay mixed in, but it was a blink if you saw it. It was almost like there was filters over top of the gameplay, like transparent gradients and stuff for the presentation. That was like an announcement of a new game by Battlefield devs. That was a bit of a dud too.
Yeah, there was that other game that was announced. I think it was called Windsong, which was literally just like the title card, but it was like from the creators of Fallout and Dragon Age Inquisition. And like it was basically like naming all these like RPG games. And I'm like, okay, well, those could have been like QA testers. Like, who knows?
I got a quote from that, and it's kind of a thing at these shows, especially the Keeley stuff. A new studio from industry veterans seems to be a thing, and yeah, usually to start a studio, it's possible to do it as a first studio, but you usually need some veterans to get going.
Yeah. So they showed Gotham Knights yet again. Now, have we seen Mr. Freeze and Clayface before in any of the other Gotham Knights trailers? Because I feel like we have not.
I don't think so. I feel like they are just now starting to bring out some of the villains.
Okay.
Yeah, so from what I saw trending about that game, villains seem to be the big thing.
Okay. So
and they also announced it's coming out earlier.
Right. Yeah. So So I found that kind of interesting. I'm like, okay, like there's some people, people would know, enemies people would know, which is kind of cool.
Okay. I almost forgot. I don't have much else I want to talk about. We have to talk about High on Life.
Yes. Which
we had seen before. I saw it trending at some point and people saying that I like negative stuff in general. I'm like, there's no way that game is that bad. It had the talking guns. It seems pretty cool. And then when I finally watched this show, my God, we talked about Rocket Raccoon being obnoxious in the Guardians game and talking too much. This game was that at 11 for 3 minutes of the same gameplay and the guns dropping F-bombs every 3 seconds or the boss dropping F-bombs. That 3-minute gameplay demo was, I hate to say it, but kind of a disaster in my opinion. Like my interest in that game plummeted. A game that I thought was going to be really cool. And I'm like, I don't think I could even handle playing this game after that.
Yeah. And it's weird. Like, I just played through Trover Saves the Universe, and I enjoyed it for the most part. But it did have, as I mentioned to Huck, a couple sections where it got real obnoxious, real annoying. Kind of had Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, where people just wouldn't shut up. And now seeing it here in this game, same voices as well. Justin Roiland just kind of doing the same Rick and Morty voices. And now it's, I'm kind of worried. I'm starting to think maybe it's too much. This guy needs to get some other voice actors in there or something.
I don't want to sound like, it's not the swearing. Like, it's not like, I'm fine with it if it's actually funny. It's just swearing for the sake of swearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. It seems very odd to me. The whole thing felt like kind of like just a bombardment of really, like, this is where this game is going. Anyway, not good.
Yeah, they obviously had to show something, or felt they had to show something for this, and they just decided, well, let's just show a boss fight or this sequence, and I don't think it was a good decision.
I'm not writing the game off by any means, but that I could also see a case where, if you were playing that portion, maybe it doesn't talk as much because you don't care. You're doing something. But when you're watching it as part of a show, like, okay, if we just play it, it's going to seem really sparse. So we got to fill it with more dialogue just for this. So,
could be.
I'm not sure.
Hopefully.
All right. I don't have anything else from this show unless you guys do.
I have a couple of quick things. Frank, I thought you would be totally into Scars Above, which was giving me major Returnal vibes with that like pyramid thing over top of the earth. And it looked like they were going to very similar environments to Returnal. Maybe not quite as...
I have a note for that. And you know what? I did think it looked cool. I think at this point I was that was one of the 3 or maybe 4 general 3D action game kind of AA burnout I was having, but
it did look like a AA Returnal to me, kind of idea.
And I think it could be good. You are right. I should have mentioned that, and I'm kind of into the idea, but just it's honestly getting tough to separate all these games that look really similar.
Yeah. Another one for me was The Expanse Telltale game. Now, I don't know why Telltale is having such a resurgence right now, because they also had New Tales to the Borderlands, but I don't think that was Telltale, right? That was the other, like the Gearbox spinoff or whatever, right?
Well, I think the original one was Telltale. I don't know if the new one is.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, the Expanse game is Telltale, and I really like The Expanse. I think it's really a cool... I've only read the first novel, but I've watched the first like 3 or 4 seasons of the show, and I really like the universe they have. So I'm pretty excited. And the character that is the main character is one of the... I don't know if she would be considered a main character in the show or the novels, but she is like definitely a prominent person. So I think it's kind of cool. Another one was, just briefly, I really liked the Hogwarts Legacy trailer. They didn't show too much new, but they kind of emphasized it seemed like more of the like wand shooting stuff and that sort of like combat, almost like magic missile type.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of the spell combat, it was basically the same stuff we had seen before. So I feel like that is the element that is going to determine the success of that game.
One thing I did find interesting about the end title card, or whatever you call it, the card, was that it said the release date of February 10th, but it did in super tiny print. It did say Switch release date later or something like that, like coming later. So obviously I was wondering, like, how are they going to get this game on Switch, like in this time frame? And they're not. So not surprised. I mean, this game looks gigantic, and to put this game on Switch would be a huge, huge job. So, yeah. The last one I want to mention was there was this game called Friends versus Friends that had this like really like 80s cartoon style intro, which I was like, okay, this looks interesting. And then it turned out to just be some like normal third person arena shooter.
I thought it was first person with like...
first person, sorry. That's what I meant to say. First person.
A deck building element, like.
Oh, was there a deck building as well?
Yeah, it's like the thing you have to have.
Anyways, as soon as it switched to this thing that was totally not like 80s cartoon, I was like, all right, I'm done. Like, I was interested before this, but now I'm checked out. But I think that's it for me. From
I was the same on Friends versus Friends. It seemed promising, and then the actual game is not what I thought it was going to be. I just remembered this. I think they only showed a really quick one at this, but they showed more at one of the indie showcases. Phantom Hellcat. Do you guys remember seeing this one? It's kind of like this action game with like a hack and slash kind of thing. Somebody wearing a mask. I mean, from this particular teaser, I didn't get much from it, but the other showcase, it looked kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it was the Future Games one. I have a note saying I'm intrigued.
They showed this in opening night live?
Yeah. It was like a 30-second thing.
It might have been one of those like sizzle reels.
Wasn't that part of the paid advertising section for one of the publishers? I skipped those.
Could have been. Could have been.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Want to give a letter grade?
Ooh.
We must. I'm sorry. We must.
I think it was better than the Summer Game Fest opening night. Like, I feel like there was a bit more new stuff, a bit more variety, but it still wasn't great. So, I don't know, C+, maybe?
That's where I was. I was about C+.
I guess I was going to give it maybe a B-, which is pretty close to C+. So I'll stick with my B-.
Let's get that C out there. Come on.
All right, C+.
You didn't watch it like the way we did.
No, I could not.
Let's
you guys
downgrade.
That's why mine is a B-. You guys.
Okay. Now, I didn't watch the other two shows. I saw a bit of the stuff there. Did you guys want to bring up any of those games that caught your eye?
Yeah, maybe just real quick. I mean, we should mention the Nobody Saves the World DLC. What's it called? Frozen Hearth. There's like a new area, a couple new forms, and it seems like there's kind of like an arena with like challenges and some sort of mini golf thing. So I'm kind of interested. I don't know. I'm assuming it's not going to be free to people who have Game Pass. It's going to have to be still a paid add-on, but I might check it out.
Yeah, I will definitely check it out.
I guess the other, I'll just mention, like, I feel like it's been a slow year for Metroid type games, but there were a bunch in the indie showcases that I was excited about. Some of them are actually coming to Game Pass this year, I think. Ghost Song being one of them, which I thought looked pretty good. Biomorph, I'm not sure about. That one kind of reminded me a little more like Hollow Knight, a little more Souls-like kind of vibe. And then I think the one that I was the most excited for is 9 Years of Shadows, which I know we've seen before. But the trailer for this one, and I forget which of the showcases it was in, it really felt a lot like a Castlevania DS game. I thought the artwork looked great, and
yeah, I agree.
I think they have one of the Castlevania composers maybe working on it, something like that. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to those.
What's the one that it won the award for best Xbox game during the opening night?
Is that
the last case of Benedict Fox?
Yes.
Is that this year? Do we know? Or
I think it's next year, 2023. Pretty sure.
Does look good though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. Huck, any indie stuff that stood out to you?
So the Case of the Golden Isle, which is like this detective-y game, I was pretty pumped. That was in the Future Game Showcase or Future Game Show. I thought that looked pretty cool. The art style is very like rough, very pixelated. But there is a demo on Steam, which I have downloaded, but have not tried yet. So I'm going to give it a try, but it seemed like it was very open-ended, very, I don't know. it seemed very interesting. I'm very, very interested in it.
Yeah, it seemed
it's
like
hard
you
to
have
tell.
to. It seemed like you have to mix and match words in some way. I didn't totally understand what that mechanic was, but I really like the art style. Actually, like it's pixel art, but it's kind of like this weird, twisted kind of pixel art.
Yeah, I thought the art style was pretty cool. Reminded me a bit of like a 2D Inscription kind of vibe.
It reminded me of that Olija game, Olija game.
Oh yeah. And the some of the gameplay is similar to I'm trying to look it up quickly. There's like a 2D game called I want to say Jenny LeClue. It's not Jenny LeClue. It's something else. I'll find it. But anyways, I thought that game looked really interesting, and it did say that it was non-linear, which is kind of cool. Like, I don't know how you're gonna track all that. Sometimes non-linear games can, have an explosion of options, and they're just debilitating. So that is not necessarily a turn on for me, but I do like the idea. I am interested in trying out the mechanics of this, like matching all of the different words together and seeing like how that mechanic is working. The other one game that did stand out with me, which I don't know, it kind of felt like an ad, but it was Hypercharge Unboxed, which I'd never heard of, but it's like toys in a first-person shooter game, and you collect like action figures essentially, and those are your characters. And I thought it actually looked pretty fun, and I had never heard of it, and they were advertising like it was a big hit on Twitter or something like that. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, this was a weird thing that just happened recently. Like, the game's been out for a couple years, and I don't know what exactly made it go viral, but suddenly I started seeing it all over my Twitter. Suddenly people were streaming it everywhere, and now it's like, it's picking
coming
up
to
steam
consoles.
and coming to consoles. So yeah, it looks like kind of a fun concept.
Okay, so I found the detective game. It's called Detective Grimoire, and it has the same similar mechanic where you need to match words to this other detective game.
That sounds familiar.
Anyways.
That game.
Yeah.
I think it was on
Secret of the
Apple Arcade
Swamp.
at one point.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Also, I thought Frank would love Snackoon, but I personally hate it with a passion because raccoons right now are the bane of my existence. I had these plump, juicy tomatoes on my vines, and guess what happened? Those fucking raccoons came by and ate them, and I am ready to buy a gun, take these babies out.
Oh yeah.
I was waiting all year to eat those tomatoes. Anyways.
Yeah, I didn't really see much
raccoons.
about this game. Just taking a look now, and yeah, I'm kind of digging it. You're not wrong. It looks pretty awesome.
Let's see, what else do we got here?
Feels a bit like Stray meets Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, something like that. There was a game called Aftermage, which I have a note saying I would like to see more. It was kind of like
I think it's actually After Image.
After Image. Oh
yeah, and I do
yes,
remember
you're right.
this one.
After Image. Yeah, it kind of was like a platformer. It kind of reminded me of that Flynn's Son of Crimson game a little bit that I was playing on Game Pass. It just has that same sort of like 2D action gameplay. I don't know if it's a Metroidvania. Oh wait, it does say Metroidvania. It is a Metroidvania.
Yep.
And I don't know. It looked, the animations and stuff weren't great, but for like the enemies. But I thought the environments and sort of like the setting was kind of interesting, almost like, kind of like a little out there fantasy.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. Deliver Us Mars, I'm interested in, only because I like Deliver Us the Moon. But, I'm interested in that. And another game, which I'm going to look up to remind myself of, but I have it written down as Edge of Sanity. Let me just see what this game is.
It seemed kind of like a Lovecraftian thing, but like more of like a 2D cartoony style.
Yeah, it was very interesting, and it almost like is like you said, a psychological thriller almost type game with almost like, do I dare say, sanity effects?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting some like movie The Thing vibes as well.
Yeah. And then there was a game called The Witch Knights, which I thought looked really cool. It was kind of like another, I believe it's a Metroidvania, but it was, it looked really like, I don't know. It just looked really polished, way more polished than I was expecting from a game. And I don't know if there's any buzz about
this. Is it The Night Witch?
Oh yes, you're right. The Night Witch. What did I write down? The Witch Knights. Yeah, I don't know. I have dyslexia. Yes, The Night Witch. Oh God, dyslexia, big time.
Too much VR, but you got to relax.
Too much VR.
You got the VR spins.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Add this one to my wish list.
Yeah, that one looked really cool. And this last one I was kind of interested in, called Sunday Gold, which is just like this weird, I don't know, like I couldn't tell. I like the art style, basically, is what it came down to. And it almost looks like a turn-based RPG or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's like some sort of card aspect to it.
It says point and click turn-based adventure.
Okay. So I don't really know. Like the trailer doesn't really explain the gameplay that well, but I did like the art style, and the battles they show looked kind of interesting.
Peggy 18.
Art style seems like mildly inspired by Disco Elysium.
Yes, I did get Disco Elysium vibes as well. Yeah,
with a bit more of a.
The last one I want to bring up is
polished version of that.
Yes, yeah. The last one I want to bring up, more as like a side tangent, is Dark Picture Anthology, The Devil in Me, which, like, these games must be doing really, really well, because they just keep, this is like the new what was the original episodic. This is like the new episodic style, where you basically take the same game, instead of having a game where you change the story and possibly mechanics. Now you're like basically taking you keep the characters the same, but just change the story. Now you're basically keeping all the mechanics the same and just changing the story up every time of the characters. And it seems to be working, because these games, as far as I know, all the mechanics are the same. Are they not? Or they're basically the same?
I've never been 100% clear on that. I've been wanting to try one of these games, but I mean, the fact that they call it an anthology definitely feels like an anthology TV series, where it's like under the same name, but like every season is a new story and new characters.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think they're doing a really cool thing, and they definitely have carved out a little like niche for themselves of this sort of, what was the first game they did?
Until Dawn?
Until Dawn. Yeah. It's kind of like a little, they had Until Dawn. It was a hit, and now they've kind of taken and exploded in this whole little thing, and they are pumping them out pretty quickly. Like, I believe they're putting them out every like 6 months or so, which seems very quick. I don't know. They must have multiple teams going now or something, because didn't another one just come out not too long ago?
The Quarry came out earlier this year.
Yeah, the Quarry. Yeah. So, I mean, these guys must be doing really well. I'm
Seems like they're all developed by Supermassive. So,
yeah.
And The Devil in Me, I think the main voice actor is Jessie Buckley. So, she's really good.
Yeah, I guess the one other thing I just wanted to mention in passing is there was a new trailer for System Shock remake, reimagining, whatever it is. Was kind of surprised there was no release date on that. They're still saying 2022, but just says coming soon. So, but I thought it looked
pretty good.
Yeah.
I've never played System Shock. I know very little about it.
I also have never played it in a real way. Like, I've dabbled, but never really
Is it a precursor in any way to BioShock, or am I?
Yes, it is.
Or is it Deus Ex? I'm thinking of.
I think all those.
Okay. All right. I'm glad you guys brought up some of those games, in particular some of the Metroidvania ones. They look quite good. All right. We're going kind of long. Do you want to hold off on what we played for next week, unless there's anything you really need to get off your chest? Because I assume it might be a light week.
Sure. I mean, I feel like, well, there's a bunch of other stuff coming out next week as well. I just wanted to talk briefly about Midnight Fight Express, which came out on Game Pass, if that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to try it, but give her. Yeah,
I mean, I didn't play a ton of it, but oh, Frank, where'd you go?
Something's up. Something's up.
He gave her.
So this is an action game, and we saw trailers for it, and they looked very impressive because it's all custom motion captured stuff, and there's a lot of environmental stuff. So it's like a brawler, but like, you might be up against a wall and you'll like throw somebody into the wall, or you'll be close to like, I don't know, a wine rack. You'll throw somebody through a wine rack. I don't know, something like that. And so I was curious to see how it would play. And my initial impressions is that it's fun, but they are trying to do kind of like an Arkham combat thing. And it's not quite the same. And the problem I have with it is that, it's like a counter system. And this could be just because I'm in the early stages of the game right now, but like you're kind of like sitting there like, okay, am I waiting for somebody to attack so I should counter, or should I just like button mash and beat these people up? And most of the time I'm finding that just the button mashing is the better approach. So perhaps as it gets more difficult and more people start attacking, the counters will be more useful. But it doesn't have that same idea of like you're just looking for incoming attacks and trying to like time your response.
Wasn't part of this game also that it was developed primarily by one person?
Yes, I believe that is the case. And I will say some of the story stuff is pretty ridiculous. Like there's, from what I could understand, there's like a citywide basically riot happening. And there's like this drone that is waking you up and giving you instructions what to do. And like, it was very strange, I thought. But yeah, I mean, there's, it's hand-to-hand combat, but there's also guns. You can throw things, lots of environmental stuff you can pick up and use. So in that sense, it's pretty cool. And from the reviews I've read, there's new things, new kind of skills that you keep getting throughout the game. So it's a shorter game, but apparently, those new things just keep switching it up enough to keep it interesting. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Seems like it's about 5 hours. So seems like it's right in the finish it range, which is nice.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huck, anything you need to speak of urgently, or?
No, I can save everything to next week.
Okay, good, because I think I'm on the verge of pooping my pants. All right, that's Gamescom. Big releases next week. Last of Us Part 1, Cowabunga Collection. Those are pretty huge. They kind of snuck up on us. We're into the big release game season. Just like summer's over, here we go.
Immortality as well on Game Pass.
The hell's that?
Ooh,
Sam
Barlow game. It's like the telling lies in Her Story.
I started Her Story a while back.
Yeah, you did.
It's pretty good. Didn't finish it though. I should probably get back to it. Okay. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.